Hello, gentle people. Thanks for tuning in again to yet another episode of Wha Yuh Go Do. It's the web series that doesn't deliberately set out to offend or upset people. I'm your friendly neighborhood cynic with a shoulder-honest chip, Pablo Kernahan. So the issue of Venezuelan migrants re-entered the news illegally recently. That's only because of reports of children being placed on a pirogue and being sent back out to sea in dicey weather. Honestly, COVID-19 takes up all the oxygen in the room. There's no ventilator that can deal with that, really sucking up all our limited attention. The steady drip, 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 then gush of migrants into the country just couldn't compete with the riveting weekly news conferences for which we sit close to our transistor radios to learn from government officials just one thing: how to stretch what could easily be said and done in 5 minutes into a 2-hour plus epic of repeated narratives and folksy homespun didactic yarns. Those COVID-19 talkathons make a Fidel Castro speech seem like just one grain of sand in an hourglass. When stories popped up of the TNT Coast Guard putting those niños on a boat and sending them back to Venezuela, revelations of untracked illegal migration which never actually stopped once again caught our interest. For his part, the Swiss Army Minister Stuart Young, who added the Ministry of Splitting Hairs to his portfolio, kept harping on the idea that the children weren't deported. They were merely rerouted or re-escorted to Venezuela, he said. What the hell does re-escorted mean anyway? Did they have an escort on the way here? Anyway, it was reported by the news media /fake news, if it makes us look bad, that the children, among others, illegally entered the country on the 17th of November, spent 5 nights at a police station and were then placed on boats and shoved off on the 22nd of November. Check-out time at the Arene jail cells being around 12 noon to allow officers to prepare the facilities for the next wave of migrant guests. How could they have been rerouted or re-escorted if they had already landed? Or is that an inconvenient detail? I don't know. This reminds me of that old saying: if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, is it still a massive lie to cover one's ass? Here's an uncomfortable thought. If that boat got into trouble and those children, whom Stuart Young says the law tells us are undesirables, what if they ended up in Davy Jones' locker? You think international headlines would make the distinction between deported and re-escorted? Do you think they'd focus, like Stuart Young did, on whether the 4-month-old baby was actually 4 months old or maybe much, much older, like 6 months or 9 months, at which age it would obviously be fully capable of fending for itself adrift in the open ocean? I'm guessing, and I'm just guessing here, international headlines would have read, "Children drown after being sent to sea by Caribbean island authorities." A bit longer than the average headline, but you get the point. No one outside of the country would care that we can't absorb tens of thousands of Venis or that we aren't even able to care for our own citizens, much less Venezuelan raiders. They won't blame the US or Maduro or global warming or the random cruelty of a fickle universe that spares billionaires and gives cancer to puppies. All they'd know is we sent human beings to the finality of the deep. Hey, while you're here, tell me which of these statements is correct. A, as human beings, we should show humanity to our struggling neighbors. Or B, we just can't take any more Venezuelans in. Punto final. If you said either A or B, well, congratulations, you're wrong. The fact is, both those statements are correct. This country cannot possibly take on more Venezuelans. That's not because they're consuming resources meant for Trinis, but there simply won't be enough employment for them all. If migrants can't find jobs to feed and clothe, and just barely clothe, themselves and their families, that isn't good, either for them or us. At the same time, we have a responsibility to those who are here. Successfully assimilating a reasonable number of Venezuelan migrants isn't just the humane thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Of course, in TNT, doing the smart thing isn't exactly our forte. By the way, the Prime Minister criticized UN agencies, saying they've deliberately inflated the migrant numbers to pad their budgets. Such agencies put the figure of migrants at over 60,000, whereas our government insisted that it was more like 12 or 15. Yet the PM is now complaining we have Venezuelans coming out of our airs. So which is it? The UN was right, or the number is far lower? There's another reason why it's important to be smart or strategic about the migrant crisis. You may have noticed by now, but this country has a serious brain drain going on. Our best and brightest minds are leaving us for countries that value their intellect. Intelligent, innovative people in Trinidad and Tobago are mostly like a chandelier in a latrine. I know, it sounds like it would be useful, but... Anyway, we're mostly left with the empty barrels, many of them relying on barrels being sent back by those who have gone abroad. Now, lots of Trinis, though not all, convinced themselves Venezuelan migrants are prostitutes, criminals, or arepa makers. By the way, with that said, what does that say about the jobs you claim they're taking from you? Oh, you make arepas, is that right? The truth is, quite a few of the Venezuelans coming here are skilled workers and qualified professionals. With all the bright, talented people we continue to lose, wouldn't it have been great that through the registration process, the skills of migrants would be assessed so we could develop a human resource database to put these men and women to the task of rebuilding this economy along with the rest of us? I mean, is there anything on the current registration form beyond name, age, gender, and which part you're staying? Look, we need a migrant policy and stat. Maduro isn't going, so Venezuelans will keep coming. The 100 we deport today will be back in a matter of months, weeks, even days, because the only thing guarding our borders is the occasional kobo. And yes, we have to show compassion even as we accept we can't open our doors to unlimited numbers of Venezuelans. You know, it's funny. It's about that time of year again when everyone is getting excited about pastels and listening to parang music. I can just picture it now. Trini families gathered on Christmas morning eating those pastels and singing, "Sereno, sereno, sereno, send them back." But what you go do?